Guys, one of the best gifts you can get for Christmas is clear, refreshing, healthy skin, which is why today's video is sponsored by Geology. Geology is the industry leader in personalized skin and hair care. With over 7,000 5-star customer reviews and 27 awards from Men's Health, Esquire, and many others, it's no surprise that all of us on the team have seen huge improvements in both our skin and our hair. Now listen, I ain't getting any younger, man. And with age, we get things like wrinkles or even dry skin and the occasional breakouts, but that's where Geology comes in. After taking a short 30-second quiz, they will have a customized personal routine just for you. Guys, we have partnered with Geology for the past year, and I can't go back. Seriously, my bathroom is full of it. And I thought before that I actually had a good skincare routine, but Geology is the best. Fellas, if you're interested today, you can check out our link down below and use code Aztecross70. This will give you 70% off on that personalized skincare trial set and another 30% off on anything that you add on. Guys, that's 70% off by simply using Aztecross70. So guys, take charge of your skin routine today. I promise you, your skin will thank you. So guys, Grandmaster Nightfalls are back. With it, we have a new Adept weapon called Undercurrent. Now, interestingly enough, it is an Arc waveframe grenade launcher, which I know many of you right now saying, Cross, why would I use this? I've got Forbearance at home, which is exactly why we're doing this review. We're gonna do a side-by-side comparison between Undercurrent and the God Roll versus Forbearance and what has been the godliest waveframe now for almost 2 years. Now, believe me, I know there's other waveframes out there. You've got harsh language, you've got explosive personality, which personally, explosive personality is my favorite PvP grenade launcher, considering you can roll with disruption break. But today we're going to be talking about PvE, because the fact that Undercurrent is not only a waveframe, but an Arc waveframe, it's not trying to pick a fight with any other waveframe other than Forbearance. So let's dive into the details. Now let's start with stats. Let me just say, stats on a waveframe really doesn't mean much of anything. It's definitely the traits that set them apart. With that being said though, Undercurrent does have some really good stats, beating out most other waveframes, except for Forbearance, which has higher base stats, just slightly in most areas. Now keep in mind though, Undercurrent is, at least from Grandmasters, an Adept weapon, therefore it gives you access to Adept mods. Now taking a look at our traits, in our third column, we have Lead from Gold, Field Prep, Stats for All, Ambitious Assassin, Eddy Current, and Demolitionist. On our fourth column, we have Volt Shots, One for All, Bait and Switch, Adrenaline Junk, Attrition Orbs, and High Ground. Now right away, I do want to cross off some perks. I think everything in that third column is viable, but in our fourth, I would not recommend Bait and Switch. I know when it dropped yesterday, I was like, yo, this thing's got Bait and Switch. Listen guys, I love Bait and Switch, but on a waveframe, just felt weird. It's a great perk, but primarily a DPS perk. And considering that waveframes are used normally for ad clear, if you want a 35% buff, guys, just use One for All. Now I did not land a roll for Attrition Orbs, but considering all the weapons we've utilized with Attrition Orbs, they have not been good. Let me know in the comments below if you've gotten that trait though. If it is good, I would love to hear it. I'm just saying on our other weapons we've used with Attrition Orbs, I just wasn't that impressed. Now lastly, we have High Ground. This gives you that 20% damage buff to targets standing roughly 1 meter below you. It's actually a really good perk just for walking around getting a flat damage buff, but it is situational. There are so many encounters where you are at level with your enemies or below. Now let's take a look at what really makes this weapon shine. Volt Shots. This right here is the one that interested us the most. It was the perk I wanted on Undercurrent, and despite it being nerfed several seasons ago, it's still very strong. It synergizes with Arc 3.0, and the Jolt effect has the ability to stun overload champions. Now before we get into damage comparisons between Volt Shot and Chain Reaction, because Chain Reaction is what gives you those kabloomies with Forbearance, especially in combination with Ambitious Assassin. But before we get into that, I do want to go over the perks that synergize the best here for Volt Shots, and I actually used a couple of them. One was Eddy Current, which I have never jumped up and said, hey, Eddy Current's a good trait. I mean, it's all right, but essentially it's a perk that states that after sprinting for 3 seconds, it increases reload speed for 3 seconds, and being amplified increases the bonus. Now, if you're rocking an Arc 3.0 build, which is what I'm doing here, and you're constantly staying amplified, you're able to take advantage of Eddy Current. And the reason why I'm bringing this perk up is that I actually found that it was doing pretty good. Now, the other perks, you've got Lead from Gold, which is great for ammo economy. Ambitious Assassin is also present on this, which would put it right in line with that of Forbearance, which also has Ambitious Assassin with that coveted Chain Reaction combination. But keep in mind, guys, Ambitious Assassin kind of works against Volt Shots, right? Whereas Ambitious Assassin and Chain Reaction, you could proc those AoE explosions over and over when getting kills. Volt Shot is only on that first shot after getting a kill, which is why I don't think that Ambitious Assassin is necessarily the way to go. Obviously, Eddy Current, Stats for All, those perks are fantastic when you're just mass reloading over and over. It's really easy to keep those perks up at all times. The trait that separates itself from even the likes of Forbearance is Demolitionist. Demolitionist. Demolitionist is in that first trait column. Now you're seeing the amount of Ionic traces I'm creating as is. The amount of energy that's coming back into my abilities. You slap on Fallen Sunstar, the ability regeneration is nuts with the Demolitionist weapon, especially a Demolitionist Volt Shot Arc Waveframe Grenade Launcher. Now keep in mind, you do have Adrenaline Junkie, which synergizes beautifully there with Demolitionist, literally fitting each other hand in hand, as grenade kills will grant you 5 stacks, therefore giving you that 33.3% damage buff. But I still like Volt Shot more. So whether it's that Eddy Current roll that I'm rocking here with Volt Shots or a Demolitionist God roll, all I'm gonna say is that there's a lot of flexibility with this grenade launcher and there are a lot of great options. The only ones I didn't like were really Attrition Orbs and Bait and Switch, and maybe High Ground, considering how situational it is. Everything else though is actually really good, which takes us to our damage values. Against red bar enemies, just like other Waveframe grenade launchers, we're doing 34,687 damage and 29,137 damage versus Coral. Now for rolls with Bait and Switch or even One for All, you're looking at 39,335 damage. But let's talk Volt Shots. First up, Jolt is really strong inside of PvE. The synergy that you have with it, the AoE damage with Undercurrent here, it's dealing an extra 9,586 Jolt damage to red bar enemies and an extra 6,266 Jolt damage versus Coral. And keep in mind, Jolt can stun overload champions. I was actually using this inside of the coil, just running around solo, and this is what I was tying into my Arc Warlock. You see, my Geomag build here with Electrostatic Mine generates Ionic traces when defeating targets with Arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded targets, which of course with Volt Shots we're doing almost constantly. My other aspect is Arc Soul. It gives me extra damage. It also helps to keep me amplified, and when you're amplified, which is really easy to do with this build, your Arc Soul fires faster. For my fragments, I was running Spark of Discharge, which grants Arc weapons the chance to create an Ionic trace on a kill. Spark of Beacons create blinding explosions when we are amplified and score a final blow with our Arc special weapons. I also have Spark of Shock and Spark of Amplitude, where rapidly defeating targets while you're amplified creates an orb of power. Everything here, guys, is synergizing beautifully, and it's synergizing perfectly here with Arc 3.0. And after the most recent rework to Geomax stabilizers, we're collecting just one Ionic trace, grants us 2% super energy. This is granting us a large amount of super energy back. Now keep in mind, you don't necessarily have to use Undercurrent with an Arc class. I just find the synergy to be really good. But just like Forbearance, you can rock it on any other class, whether it's Hunters, Titans, and then on any other subclass outside of Arc. But now let's address the elephant in the room, Forbearance. This is a meta-defining special weapon ever since it was first introduced in Vow of the Disciple, and for a number of reasons. Number one, it's craftable. Number two, it's perks. You cannot overlook Ambitious Assassin and Chain Reaction, both enhanced. Now this is giving us a very similar effect that Bolt Shot is giving us on Undercurrent, as Chain Reaction is generating lots of Arc Kabloomies, as each final blow generates an elemental damage explosion, with the enhanced version increasing our ammo reserves. Now this explosion was dealing a maximum of 15,040 damage versus red bars and 11,024 damage versus Coral. Keep in mind, the explosion does decrease depending on how far away the target is from the enemies you kill to cause that explosion. Now if the enemy is very close to the target that explodes, this is dealing more damage than the jolt damage from Volt Shots. But here's the kicker, you aren't really getting that same subclass synergy with Arc 3.0, as in you're not able to stun overload champions, you're not dipping into fragments like Spark of Ions. Yes, you are still rocking an Arc special weapon, that being Forbearance, and with Spark of Beacons, while you're amplified, you're still getting those same blinding explosions. Therefore, you're still proccing Electrostatic Mine and creating Ionic traces, but you aren't fully dipping into the synergy there, not like Undercurrent is. The question is that enough? Considering the enhanced perks giving us the stat bumps on Forbearance. Also, the Vow of the Disciple weapons come with a fantastic origin trait called Soul Drinker, which gives us health based on the number of hits landed before reload, which is pretty much just free healing. And I know Undercurrent has Vanguard's Vindication, which does give us health on kills, but it's a very small amount. And we have Stunning Recovery, which partially refills our magazine when stunning a champion, but a bit situational here for me. Now, before somebody brings it up, yes, there is an Adept version of Forbearance, but this was before we could actually start upgrading our perks. Now, when you get an Adept drop in a raid, you can enhance those perks, but this is not applying to the Vow of the Disciple weapons. With that being said, I think the craftable version of Forbearance is just way better. Why go for the Adept version when you have this, right? So with all of this being said, which grenade launcher is actually better, Undercurrent or Forbearance? Honestly, guys, this is gonna come down to your own personal preference. I love Undercurrent for the Arc synergy, but I cannot overlook how lethal the craftable Forbearance is. You see, Volt Shot requires you to get a kill and then reload. And yes, once you get that ball rolling, it's great. But the moment you don't get a kill, you're kind of in a sticky spot. Whereas Forbearance, once you get that single kill, now you're doubled up because of with Ambitious Assassin, and the amount of kabloomies you get on enemies that are close together. The damage is nice. Volt Shot does have a bit more spread, but it's not nearly as lethal. It's hard to argue that Undercurrent is better than Forbearance when Forbearance is this good. But at the same time, guys, if you're looking for an arc wave frame grenade launcher that can roll with Volt Shots, if you're looking to take advantage of Adept mods, and if your RNG is terrible and you never got the God Roll Forbearance or the ability to craft it, then Undercurrent is for you. Currently right now, Lake of Shadows is the Nightfall, and yes, it is a lot more challenging than what it used to be, but it's double loot this week. You can easily get your runs down less than 20 minutes, and considering how many good trait combinations are present on this GL, you really can't go wrong with a lot of these. I know I'm really hung up on Volt Shots, but you could definitely take advantage of those other traits. Volt Shot is definitely the most unique thing here though, considering I can get a stats for all, one for all on another wave frame. And bait and switch would be unique, but kind of a weird one to proc on a wave frame, right? I had fun playing with my Volt Shot roll. Will I use this grenade launcher over Forbearance? Maybe. I'll tell you this. If I'm rocking an arc subclass, if I'm going out of my way to create onic traces, and if I have a demolitionist Volt Shot roll, absolutely. You damn right I'm gonna rock Undercurrents. The synergy there is just too damn good. But everything else, to me, Forbearance is probably still gonna be king. So guys, that is our review here for our new Adept weapon this season, Undercurrent. If you haven't checked out our GM run, feel free to check that out, guys. It's just us running a clean run with our Strand Titan build, and I know folks are saying, Cross, that's so boring. Don't worry, I've got some other builds cooking up here soon that you can utilize on other classes. So be looking out for those. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.